Son's shocking choice at dad's funeral reveals an unexpected life-changing surprise days later. The church was swollen with grief. Maplewood's small-town heart beat heavy as friends and family clutched tissues, drying tears for a man they loved, Jacob's father, a man revered not just for his role as a veteran, but for a soul that poured kindness into everyone he met. Jacob, standing at the front, felt the weight of a hurricane crashing over him. He had just lost his dad, and now, in the midst of his deepest sorrow, he was faced with a choice that could shatter his world further. "Today, I'll be selling Dad's tools," he blurted out, the church going silent, breaths catching collectively. "To save the garage." Time slowed as a gasp echoed from his mother, a sound laced with betrayal. His sister, shaken, fled the scene, tears streaming down her face. The walls seemed to close in, Jacob's heart constricting like a vice. How had it come to this? The tools, symbols of love and legacy, now weapons against him. As days dragged on, his home felt more like a battlefield than a sanctuary. His mother sat quietly, her spirit dulled, lost in memories of the man who had always brought light. Jacob tried reaching out, but his words felt heavy as stones. And his sister? She avoided him like the plague, echoes of their fight pulsing in the air. Maplewood buzzed with murmurs, gossip that only added to Jacob's sense of isolation. He sat on the garage floor, staring at the dusty old tools, each one a testament to his father's dedication. The tension in the air pulled tight around him like a heavy blanket, pressing down with their unresolved conflicts. The thought of losing everything his father stood for haunted him. Was it worth it? The regret gnawed at him, a relentless reminder of choices made in bitterness and desperation. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Then, like light piercing dark clouds, something extraordinary happened. Jacob's neighbor, Nancy, a kind-hearted woman who had seen Jacob's struggles, decided to share his story online. The community rallied, sharing, commenting, and donating. Donations poured in, people brought tools, and offers flooded in to help revive the garage. It was like a lifeline thrown in turbulent waters. Stunned, Jacob found hope flickering in the corner of his heart. Maybe his father's legacy was more than the tools, they were the connections, the community that rose to support him. But as Jacob stood there, hope budding against a backdrop of grief, he heard a familiar sound, the door creaking open. A figure stepped inside, casting a long shadow. It was someone he hadn't seen in years, and the air thickened with questions. Would this visitor bring healing, or would they unravel everything? Jacob's heart raced. A revelation was brewing, and the outcome could change everything. Jacob's heartbeat thundered in his ears as he took in the figure standing at the threshold. The tall frame, shadowed by age yet undeniably familiar, belonged to his Uncle Tom. Jacob hadn't seen him since he was a child, memories of whispered stories and comforting hugs fading in the distant recesses of his mind. It felt surreal, like opening a time capsule. Uncle Tom. The name felt strange on his tongue, as if he'd only just discovered that part of his life. The man stepped forward, hesitating as Jacob's tension filled the room. There was an apology in his eyes, a hint of regret that mirrored Jacob's own anguish. Jacob, I came as soon as I heard. Tom's voice cracked, revealing years of heartache tucked behind his stoic facade. I wish I could have been here sooner. Why weren't you? The words escaped Jacob unfiltered, his grief transforming into frustration. You just disappeared. When Dad needed you. A pained expression crossed his uncle's face, and for a moment, Jacob wondered if he'd regret this confrontation. I thought it'd be better to stay away. I was wrong. The man's shoulders slumped, and in that moment, Jacob recognized the sheer weight of his uncle's choices, ones tinged with shadows and secrets. Why now? Jacob pressed, struggling to rein in the flood of emotions swirling in his chest. What do you want? Tom took a deep breath, his eyes glistening as if on the brink of tears. I've come to tell you something important about your father, something I should have shared long ago. The air grew thick around them, charged with expectation. Jacob straightened, curiosity battling with skepticism. What are you talking about? Your dad, he didn't only work on tools and machines, Jacob. He had a dream, a plan he never pursued because he wanted the best for his family. He spoke about it often, about saving the garage and turning it into something more. Each word ripped through Jacob, the revelation hanging in the air like smoke. What are you saying? Tom shifted, struggling with his own emotions. He wanted to open a community workshop. Somewhere people could learn and share, just like he did with you and your sister. He had sketches, ideas of what it could be. The concept crashed into Jacob's mind, swirling visions of laughter, woodworking classes, neighbors bonding over repairs. His father never once mentioned this dream, but the idea nestled warmly against the grief, offering a glimpse of something he never knew he needed. Where are the sketches? Jacob asked, hope igniting within his chest, pushing away the shadows of doubt. Tom reached into his worn leather bag, drawing out a faded notebook. He entrusted it to me for safekeeping. I should have brought it sooner. As the notebook landed in Jacob's hands, he opened it with trembling fingers. The pages were filled with sketches, ideas, even notes of encouragement written in his father's careful script. In that moment, as he processed a reality he had never imagined, Jacob felt the weight lift a fraction. But just then, a thought crept in, tipping the scales back toward uncertainty. Was this the answer he needed, or just another layer of pain? Jacob's, there's something else you need to understand. Tom's voice trailed off, the weight of his unspoken words shaking Jacob to the core. What now? Jacob's breath caught, dread pooling deep within him, curiosity surging alongside it. What could possibly follow this revelation? The tension whipped the air, binding them in suspense over the uncharted path ahead. Jacob's heart raced in his chest as he stared at Uncle Tom, uncertain what more could come from this volatile interaction. The notebook felt heavy in his hands, the many blueprints of his father's unfulfilled dreams filling him with conflicting emotions. Is there more? Jacob finally asked, his voice sharper than he intended, echoing with his desperation for answers. Uncle Tom inhaled deeply, a tremor running through his frame. Your father, he didn't just dream big, he was scared, Jacob. Scared of what pursuing that dream could mean for you and your sister. He put you first, always. Jacob's eyes flickered, caught between anger and sorrow. How had he never known? He felt betrayed and hurt, yet understanding flickered like a candle in the dark. But he let that fear stop him. Why did he never try? The room felt drawn into silence as Tom shifted from foot to foot. He thought he would be letting you down if he failed. Every time he looked at that old garage, he felt the weight of that dream and the fear of not fulfilling it. It crushed him. Jacob clenched his fists, wrestling with the dam of emotions inside him. His father had always worn the mask of the strong one, a man too proud to reveal his vulnerabilities. All this time, I thought he didn't care. That work was more important. He didn't even tell me he didn't want to burden you with his regrets, Tom interjected gently, placing a hand on Jacob's shoulder. But now, you have the opportunity to fulfill that dream. It's not too late. Hope and pain collided in Jacob's chest. I don't know how to run a workshop, he mumbled, feeling the ground shift beneath him. But I do, Tom said, his gaze steady. And I'd like to help you. The declaration hung in the air, alive with possibility. With a sense of purpose, Jacob looked around the room. The memories they once shared came flooding back, a father teaching him to weld, fixing bikes on sunny afternoons, laughter filling the space where now silence reigned. The sketches fluttered on the pages, each line and scribble adding depth to the image of what could be. What if we did this? Jacob's voice quivered, a mix of excitement and trepidation. Turn the garage into that community workshop. Tom's face brightened, a sense of relief washing over him. Exactly. We can bring people together, just like your father wanted. It won't be easy, but I promise it will be worth it. As images of vibrant classes, children learning hands-on skills, and laughter filled Jacob's mind, an ember of determination ignited. What do we need to do to start? Tom smiled, a flicker of pride visible in his eyes. First, we can gather community support. I've still got connections. We'll need materials, tools, volunteers. A sudden pang of realization hit Jacob, not just for the work ahead, but for the weight of the responsibility. What if I fail? Then we'll try again, Tom said reassuringly. Your father didn't succeed alone, Jacob. He built a community to support him, and so can you. In the wake of those words, Jacob realized he wasn't just carrying his father's dreams anymore. He was nurturing a spark of hope for the future. A deep breath filled his lungs as he felt the weight of impending possibility. But just as quickly, doubt slithered back into his heart. What if I decide to let it all go? What if I can't? Tom's gaze turned serious. Then you owe it to your father and to yourself to find out. You'll never know unless you try. Jacob nodded slowly, feeling the burden of that revelation both daunting and freeing. With a renewed sense of purpose, he glanced back at his father's sketches, the road ahead opening like the pages of a brand new book. However, the looming unknown still rested behind them. Would pursuing this dream lead him to acceptance, or would it unearth wounds better left hidden? The silence settled thickly once more, charged with decisions yet to be made as both men stood on the precipice of change. With his heart racing in anticipation, Jacob broke the stillness. Let us do this. But first, tell me everything. What secrets did my father keep? Tom inhaled deeply, the air crackling with tension. What was this truth that hovered like a shadow, waiting just out of reach? Tom took a moment, the weight of Jacob's question hanging in the air like a storm cloud. His eyes softened, and Jacob could see a flicker of pain there, reflective of a past that still haunted him. I was hoping you wouldn't ask, Tom admitted quietly, glancing down at the floor, where the light from a dusty window framed his silhouette. Your father, he struggled. More than anyone knew. But the biggest secret? He had a partnership in mind, a co-owner for the workshop. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. What do you mean? Co-owner? Tom nodded slowly, wrestling with memories that felt raw and heavy. He had plans to join forces with another craftsman, a man named Victor. They shared dreams, Jacob. They were supposed to build something special together. But Victor, he lost his wife to illness, and your dad didn't want to bring it up when everything fell apart. He didn't think he could do it alone. Frustration and confusion washed over Jacob. So he abandoned the idea because of Victor's struggles. He let fear rule him again. Not fear, Jacob, compassion, Tom corrected, his voice firm but kind. He wanted to be there for Victor, to support him. The sincerity in Tom's expression knocked against Jacob's anger like a stone against a window. Then, what about me? What about us? Jacob realized his voice was rising, a mix of urgency and despair bubbling over. He hid these dreams away, and I've been just sitting here, lost. All this time, he could have shared any of this, and then we might have built something together. Tom stepped closer, his expression softening. You can still do that. It's not too late. You can revive his dream, finish what he started. You and I can reach out to Victor. Perhaps he still has a desire to create. Maybe we can still make this workshop a reality. Together. Jacob closed his eyes, imagining all the missed opportunities, the unfulfilled potential. It hurt, but the idea of reaching out to Victor sparked something within him. A flicker of hope against the shadows of regret. Where is he now? Jacob asked, his heart racing at the thought of that connection. I heard he moved after the funeral, but I have his last known address. I'll help you. We'll write to him, see if he's willing to talk. Tom's eyes were serious, fueled by the same determination that had inspired Jacob moments earlier. Jacob's mind raced. What would I even say? Hi, I'm Jacob, your late partner's son, and I want to continue your dreams. Tom chuckled softly, brushing a hand over his beard. Something like that. You just need to be honest. Tell him what your father wanted, share your vision. You might be surprised at how he responds. Something changed within Jacob. The initial shock of the news began to morph into motivation. He couldn't let the leap of faith his father never took die with him. I want to meet him, Jacob said, feeling the tide of newfound determination. Let us go find Victor. But uncertainty crept back in. What if he resents me? What if he's moved on completely? Those are small fears compared to the one large truth. What if he wants to help you? Tom held Jacob's gaze, steady and passionate. You have to take that chance. With each passing moment, Jacob felt the weight of his father's dreams transform into his own destiny. But still, a part of him lingered on the darkness of the past. Would reaching out lead to bright new paths, or just reopen old wounds? As Tom gathered his notes, Jacob's heart raced. This was just the beginning. A journey embarked upon in the name of family and forgotten dreams. Yet in the back of his mind, the question remained, was he ready to unearth the deeper mysteries of his father's life, and the man who might have held the key? With a deep breath, he stepped towards the door. Let us do this. But as reality set in, an unsettling thought crept in. What if uncovering these truths led to unimaginable burdens? Jacob felt the world shift as he stepped outside, the crisp air colliding with his fervent hope. The sun hung low, casting a warm glow over the familiar streets. Each step felt heavy with mixed emotions, anticipation battling against lingering fears. Are you sure about this? Tom's voice broke through Jacob's thoughts, his tone both cautious and supportive. We can take our time, give it more thought. No, Jacob replied, the determination in his voice firm. I need to do this. For Dad. For me. In that moment, he envisioned the workshop, filled with the scent of wood shavings and the sound of tools at work. It was a dream that could finally breathe. As they walked, Tom shared memories of Jacob's father, painting a picture of the man Jacob barely knew. He had an unmatched spark, Tom recounted, his eyes bright. He lived for crafting, for creating something from nothing. He poured his heart into every piece. Jacob listened, part of him hungered for every detail. He wanted to know the man who seemed both so distant and hauntingly close. And Victor? Jacob asked, the name tasting foreign on his tongue. Victor was different. Not as outgoing, but he had a quiet wisdom about him, a depth your father respected. Tom paused, gathering his thoughts. It hurt him when Victor lost his wife. It changed things between them. But there was still a bond more than just work. They were friends. Jacob let that sink in. A friendship entwined in dreams and loss, just like his own hopes and fears. They crossed a busy street, and the sounds of the city murmured like a backdrop to their journey. As they neared the address, Tom had, unease twisted in Jacob's stomach. What if I'm not enough? What if Victor doesn't want to do this? He took a deep breath, wrestling doubts that surged like a tide. If he's anything like your father, he'll understand, Tom replied, his voice gentle but unwavering. Just approach him with honesty. You'll have your father's passion in your words. Finally, they stopped in front of a modest house, its paint peeling and weeds creeping at the edges. Jacob's heart pounded in his chest. This was it. The moment of truth. We're here, Tom said softly, placing a reassuring hand on Jacob's shoulder. Jacob stared at the door, anxiety swirling in his mind. What if it didn't go as he hoped? What if Victor didn't remember his father the same way? He shook off the uncertainty. Let us do it, Jacob said. He stepped up to the door, knocking hesitantly. The sound echoed in the stillness. After a moment, he heard footsteps approaching. The door creaked open, revealing an older man with weary eyes and a face lined with the maps of life's heartaches. Jacob's breath caught. He saw shadows of his father in this stranger. "Can I help you?" Victor's voice was gruff, crackling with age, but there was a hint of curiosity lurking beneath. Jacob opened his mouth, emotions spilling over the edge of his throat. "Mr. Victor, I'm Jacob." My father. Victor's expression shifted, uncertainty clouding his features. "Your father? He's gone." Nervousness wrapped around Jacob as he nodded. "I'm here because I want to talk about the workshop, about his dreams." Victor stepped back, and Jacob caught a glimpse of hesitation twinkling in his eyes, but then, something softened. "Come in," he whispered, the door widening. Jacob stepped over the threshold, anticipation racing through him. But as he glanced back at Tom, who waited on the stoop, a new question simmered deep in his mind. Would this be the beginning of uncovering the real connection between their lives, or would it reveal deeper wounds than he could ever anticipate? The moment Jacob stepped inside, the musty air wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. Dust particles danced in the thin strands of sunlight that filtered through the half-drawn blinds. The living room was filled with relics of a life once vibrant, faded photos of Victor and his wife, woodworking tools hanging neatly on the wall, their edges glinting despite the wear. Victor watched Jacob closely, his expression a fragile mix of curiosity and grief. "Your father, he was a good man," he said slowly, as if each word was a step over a crack in the pavement. "Thank you," Jacob replied, his voice shaky. "I know he was. I've only heard stories, but they mean everything to me." Victor nodded, his gaze flickering to the back of the room where an old workbench stood, piled high with uncompleted projects. "He had dreams, visions we never managed to realize. It still pains me sometimes." Jacob felt a pang in his chest. The weight of his father's unrealized passions sat heavily between them. "I want to bring those dreams to life," he said, surprising even himself with the conviction in his voice. "I want to finish what he started." "Do you?" Victor's eyes sharpened, searching Jacob's face for sincerity. "It's not just about wood and nails. It requires heart, dedication, maybe even some pain." "I'm all in," Jacob insisted. "I've been carrying this dream too. I just never knew how to start." Victor stepped further into the room, finally allowing the door to close behind them. "All right then. Let us hear what you have in mind." Jacob hesitated, his mind racing through ideas and thoughts, but suddenly, he felt a flicker of clarity. "I want to build a community space. A workshop where people can come together and create, just like Dad did, the way you two did." Victor's brows furrowed as he processed the idea. "Community? You think it'll work?" "I believe it can." "It should," Jacob said, the hope in his heart spilling over. "It could honor his legacy, yours too." Victor remained silent for a moment, the tension crackling like electricity in the air. Jacob could feel the man's doubts battling with something deeper, something buried beneath years of sorrow. "Your father had faith in me," Victor finally said, his voice quieter now. "He saw potential in all our unfinished projects. Maybe it's time for me to believe again." Hope surged through Jacob, filling him with warmth. "So, you'll help me?" "I'll guide you," Victor agreed, the corners of his mouth twitching into a bittersweet smile. "But understand, this journey will test us, challenge us. We'll need to face the ghosts of the past." "That's okay," Jacob replied, his heart thumping with the thrill of possibility. "Facing them might be what we need most." And just like that, they began to carve out a new path, one filled with whispers of past laughter and the promise of what could be. As they cleared the workbench together, side by side, Jacob felt a connection building. The silence became a comfortable companion, holding them together, a bridge between the past and a future brightly tapping at the door. Just then, Jacob's phone buzzed in his pocket, and the unexpected jolt of a message pulled him out of the moment. He glanced down, and his stomach dropped. "It's Mom," he mumbled, dread settling in his throat. "What is it?" Victor asked, catching the shift in Jacob's energy. "She wants to meet," Jacob whispered, staring at the message like it was a loaded gun. "At Dad's funeral." Victor's eyes widened, a storm brewing in their depths. "What does she want?" Jacob could only shake his head, suddenly feeling the weight of the past grow heavier. Would this meeting unravel all they built in that short time, or would it gift them the answers they never knew they needed? Jacob's heart raced as he read his mother's message again. The sensation felt all too familiar, like a storm rolling in, darkening the once bright moment he shared with Victor. Memories of his mother flooded back her voice, the way she used to laugh at his father's terrible jokes, and the warmth of home that seemed so far away now. "Are you going?" Victor asked, his voice steady but laced with concern. "I don't know." Jacob felt conflicted. "It's been years since we've spoken face to face. The last time was right before everything fell apart. You owe it to yourself to find out why she wants to meet." "This could be important," Victor urged, his intensity shining through. "I just don't want to unravel everything," Jacob admitted. "We've barely started to rebuild." Victor looked at him with understanding in his eyes. "I know this is tough. But maybe you're ready to confront those ghosts. Your father would want you to seek the truth, however painful it may be." Taking a deep breath, Jacob nodded slowly. "You're right. I can't keep running from it." As they moved away from the workbench, a wave of energy surged through him. Maybe this was part of facing the past, both the happy memories and the bitter ones. Jacob felt the urgency of his decision settle deep into his bones. "I'll go," he said firmly, his eyes locking onto Victor's. "But I need your support afterward. This isn't just a conversation with her. It's a chance to reclaim my story." Victor placed a reassuring hand on Jacob's shoulder. "I'll be right here. We'll figure it out together." With that, Jacob left the workshop, the walls echoing with possibilities and echoes of unfinished projects. His mind raced as he drove home, every possible outcome playing out like a movie reel. As he pulled into his driveway, he caught sight of the faded wooden swing set in the yard. It was a remnant of his childhood, a place where laughter had once filled the air. That swing set represented the last joyful moment he shared with his family before things spiraled into chaos. After a restless night, the morning of the funeral broke with a gray sky, the kind of day that felt heavy and burdensome. Jacob wrestled with memories and emotions as he dressed in an old suit, the fabric stiff and uncomfortable against his skin. It felt like putting on a costume for a play he never wanted to be part of. At the cemetery, he stood apart from the gathering. Familiar faces surrounded him, each one a ghost of the past, whispers of conversations he thought he had buried. And then he spotted her, his mother. She looked older, wearier, but the familiar gleam in her eyes caught him off guard. Would today be the day he could confront her? Or would it be another moment lost to fear? As the service began, Jacob's heart thumped painfully in his chest. He thought of everything Victor had said, all the promises made to honor his father's memory. He had to be brave. But just as the priest spoke his father's name, his mother turned to him, her face filled with a mixture of regret and hope. Jacob, he felt frozen, a jolt of emotion coursing through him. What was she going to say? Would his father's memory bring them back together, or would it tear him apart again? And in an instant, all the unresolved questions loomed large. What truth lay beneath her words? As he stepped closer, ready to confront the past, an unexpected voice called out from the crowd, sending a ripple of surprise through those gathered. "Wait!" Jacob's breath caught in his throat as he turned. Who could it be? What surprising revelation awaited? With uncertainty swirling in the air, he braced himself for the unknown. "Wait!" The voice rang out like a bell, cutting through the somber whispers of the gathering. Jacob's heart raced even faster. He turned instinctively to find the source. It wasn't just his mother he was battling with today. It was the past, full of aching wounds that refused to stay buried. A figure emerged from the crowd, a man he didn't recognize at first but who wore an expression that seemed far too familiar. Dark hair, similar features, and the tension in the set of his jaw made Jacob feel as if he was gazing into a warped reflection of himself. "Who are you?" he called out, his voice trembling, unsure whether he was ready for this confrontation. "I am sorry to interrupt." The stranger took a hesitant step forward as everyone around murmured, their eyes darting between Jacob and him. "My name is Ryan. I'm your brother." The world tilted beneath Jacob's feet. A brother? He had never known. His mother's tumultuous past, the secrets she had hidden away, were crashing in on him all at once. He felt the weight of her gaze on him, filled with emotions he couldn't quite decipher: guilt, fear, hope. "Jacob, this isn't the place." His mother began, but Jacob cut her off. "No. No more hiding. I need to hear this." He stepped toward Ryan, feverishly searching his memory for anything that could explain why he had never known this man existed. "Why now?" Jacob asked, pain lacing his voice. "Why come here, in the middle of all this?" "I only just learned the truth myself," Ryan replied, his gaze steady yet pained. "Mom found me after years of searching. I thought I was alone until she told me about you." Stunned, Jacob felt his anger morphing into something else: curiosity intertwined with betrayal. "Why didn't she tell me?" he whispered, glancing back at his mother who looked like a deer caught in headlights. "Because she was scared," Ryan answered softly. "And she thought you were better off without knowing about me, about what happened." Tears threatened to spill from Jacob's eyes, the tempest of emotion churning within him. He felt like he was being pulled apart, half angry and half yearning for connection. "Is that true?" He turned to his mom, every nerve in his body on high alert. She hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. "I wanted to protect you. I didn't think it was the right time." "That's not your choice to make," Jacob shot back, the fire burning in his chest. "How could you decide what was right for me? You kept my brother away from me." The crowd was growing restless, whispers evolving to outright gasps, but for Jacob, the world had shrunk down to just the three of them. "I came because I want to know you," Ryan said, his voice calm amidst the chaos. "The past is the past, and I can't change what Mom did. But we could finally have a chance at something real if you'll let me." Silence fell, heavy and suffocating, curling around Jacob like a thick fog. All he wanted was to understand why everything had spun out of control, but now in front of him were fresh starts, possibilities, and painful realities all tangled together. He stood at the brink, wondering what this new revelation meant for the rest of the day and for his life moving forward. "Can I trust you?" Jacob finally managed to ask, the question hanging in the air like a shaky bridge leading into uncertainty. Ryan took a step closer, his eyes pleading for understanding. "You can if you give me a chance." As the weight of the moment settled over them, Jacob wrestled with the truths he had just discovered and the ties of family he had long thought severed. In that charged silence, new questions sprang to life within him. What if this was the beginning of something close to a family? Or just another wound festering beneath the surface? As his heart pounded in anticipation, he realized the real confrontation had just begun. What would he do next? But before he could respond, the cemetery erupted into a new tumult as storm clouds rolled in, casting shadows over them all. Would this be his moment of clarity, or another chapter of chaos? The storm loomed ominously, dark clouds swirling above, threatening to unleash their fury. Jacob felt the tension in the air shift. The gravity of the moment pulled at him, a mix of hope and dread swirling inside. He couldn't trust his own emotions, and they felt like a storm all their own. "Jacob!" His mother's voice snapped him back. "We need to leave, now." She looked frantic, but he sensed it was more than the weather spooking her. He looked at Ryan, who stood with an eager yet hesitant expression. "No," Jacob said, gripping the moment as tightly as he could. I need to address this. It matters. Around them, the assembled mourners seemed halted in time, their whispers fading into the distance. Jacob's heart raced not just with anger but with an urgency. The world outside could wait. There was something far more significant boiling over inside him than rain. Ryan took another step forward, vulnerability seeping through his stance. I get it. This is all too much. But you have to know I wouldn't have come here if I didn't care. I don't want to live in the shadows of our mother's decisions. I want to be a part of your life. The weight of those words landed heavily in Jacob's chest. Brotherhood. It was a word he had never thought would be in his vocabulary. But standing before him was a man, his brother, asking for a chance. A chance for what? Connection. Redemption. Jacob, his mother urged, a note of panic threading her voice. Just give me a second, he snapped, focusing on Ryan. You said you want to know me. But how can I trust you? You're a stranger. The only thing I know about you is what I was just told. That's a fair point, Ryan replied, lowering his gaze momentarily. But wouldn't you want to at least try? Because right now, it feels like we're both carrying the weight of our mother's fears. She made choices that impacted both of us deeply. We shouldn't let that divide us any longer. The wind picked up fiercely, rustling among the trees and sending shivers through Jacob. Somehow, his anger began to dissipate, replaced with a flicker of curiosity. Could he really reach out? Look, Ryan, Jacob managed, shaking his head as he fought back tears. I don't know if I'm ready for this. Finding out I have a brother is one thing. Trusting you is another. I don't expect you to trust me right away. But let us get to know each other, share our truths. Start this journey together, Ryan proposed, his tone earnest, almost pleading. And there it was, the possibility of something more, something he had longed for without even knowing it. Family had always felt broken, shrouded in secrets and loss. But could rebuilding be possible? Would he be able to take that risk, even with the cloud of deceit hanging overhead? Jacob glanced at his mother, watching her expression shift from anxiety to a quiet desperation. He felt torn, like he was expected to choose between loyalty and the chance at a connection he never thought he'd have. Jacob, she whispered, softer now. You have every right to be angry. But I love you. I made mistakes out of fear, but I never wanted to hurt you. Please. As thunder rumbled in the distance, he turned back to Ryan, searching for certainty among the uncertainty. Something inside pushed him forward. All right. Let us talk. But I swear, if you ever hurt me I won't, Ryan promised, the sincerity in his eyes undeniable. With a deep breath, Jacob stepped toward his brother, feeling the weight of the world lift just slightly. He was ready to face whatever came next, starting with this unexpected journey together. But just when he thought he had found some footing, the first raindrop hit. It splattered on his cheek, a cold reminder of the chaos surrounding them. Would this new reality usher in healing or further heartache? The storm was only beginning. The rain started to pour, each drop heavy with emotion, echoing the turbulence within Jacob. As he locked eyes with Ryan, he felt a surge of anticipation mixed with fear. Today was not just another painful reminder of loss, this was a moment of potential rebirth for their fractured family. Let us find somewhere to talk, Jacob said, his voice steady as he gestured toward a nearby chapel, the door slightly ajar. The gathered mourners were now rushing away from the downpour, abandoning the solemnity of the graveside as the wind howled. Ryan nodded, urgency filling his expression. Lead the way. As they entered the chapel, the warm, musty air enveloped them, contrasting sharply with the cold rain outside. It felt like stepping into another world, one where grief could simmer down to vulnerability and connection. The chapel was modestly adorned, sunlight filtering through stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns that danced across the wood floors. In that moment, everything felt both strange and familiar, as if Jacob was stepping closer to his father's spirit, the very heart of who he was amidst the shadows of his past. Once they found a quiet corner, Jacob took a deep breath and finally spoke. "You mentioned that you didn't know I existed until recently. What changed?" His heart raced, weighing the importance of this moment. Ryan shifted uncomfortably but met Jacob's gaze evenly. "I always knew I was different. I grew up in foster care. When Mom finally found me, she told me everything. I was blown away. For years, I thought I was alone, and then suddenly, there was you." Jacob frowned. The realization crashed over him: his brother had grown up alone while he had formed a life with memories of their father. Anger bubbled to the surface, but he pushed it down sharply. "It's not easy to process having someone show up out of nowhere. I felt abandoned by the people I trusted most." "I completely understand," Ryan replied earnestly, the sincerity in his eyes softening the edges of Jacob's anger. "But I want to bridge the gap. I want to understand the brother I've never known." Jacob's heart thumped painfully in his chest. Could he really let this stranger become a part of his life? The thought terrified him, but, at the same time, it lifted his spirits. "What do you want from me? What happens now?" Jacob's voice was raw, a mix of curiosity and vulnerability spilling out. Ryan took a moment, his brow furrowed in thought. "I want to help you honor Dad's legacy. I want to help with the workshop idea. That's why I came here to start fresh. Together, we can build something that celebrates our father." The sincerity of his words felt like a lifeline. Jacob felt the weight of his father's dreams cradling their conversation, connecting them. "But it won't be easy, will it? Bringing a community together, especially with everything that has happened?" "No, it won't," Ryan admitted, his voice unwavering. "But your father believed in community. He believed in second chances. We owe it to him to give this a shot." The flicker of hope sparked brightly in Jacob's heart. Could they really embark on this journey together? The shadows that had haunted him began to dissipate under the bright sun filtering through the chapel windows. "What if our mother?" he began hesitantly. "She'll have to be part of it," Ryan interrupted, his eyes darkening slightly. "But we can decide how and when, on our terms. The past has to be put to rest. We can hold on to it, but it doesn't have to define our future." Jacob nodded slowly, feeling the burden of the past begin to lift. There was an unspoken understanding in Ryan's voice, a commitment that made him feel less alone. And then, a sound broke through. The church's door slammed open, and a soaked figure entered, shaking off rain. It was Victor, looking determined. "Jacob!" he exclaimed, spotting him in the back, a relieved expression washing over his face. "I was searching for you. I talked to some of the community members. They want to contribute to the workshop, but there's something more, something we need to address before we can move forward." Out of the corner of his eye, Jacob saw Ryan's expression shift to one of surprise. "What do you mean?" Jacob asked, concern lacing his voice. "This community doesn't only want to support your father's dream. They want to help mend the rifts caused by the past. They've been talking about hosting a gathering to honor him, to help reignite these dreams together." Jacob felt his heart swell. This was exactly what his father would have wanted. A gathering? He turned to Ryan, who was watching with interest. "Yes," Victor continued, excitement pouring from him. "We can unveil the plans for the community workshop, bring everyone together. It'll be the ideal time for you and your brother to share your story. It's a step toward healing." Ryan turned to Jacob, eyes shining with hope. "Will you do it?" Images of his father flooded his thoughts, teaching him laughter, love, creativity. The tears he had tried to suppress threatened to spill over. "Yes," Jacob whispered, filled with conviction. "Let us do it. For Dad. For all of us." As the rain continued to cascade outside, Jacob felt the clouds of past pain part, revealing a horizon where hope, connection, and community awaited. There, with Ryan and Victor by his side, he felt the trajectory of his life shift, floating toward a brighter tomorrow. With this new beginning, they could rebuild together, forging a legacy that honors his father while rekindling relationships shattered by secrets and fears. And this moment marked a new chapter. One of healing, transformation, and a promise that the past would no longer dictate their identity but inspire their future. Now, let's take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support this journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about this gripping ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support.